Like clockwork, Toby sharpens his nails for us. Namaste. Welcome to Friday, March 5th. Find yourself in a comfortable seat, please. And yesterday I described why I value Om as being sort of a marker of the beginning of practice, separating this time from the rest of our life and world. But I'd also like to share that historically, Om symbolically embodies the divine energy. Another word for that is Shakti, the divine energy. And its three main characteristics are creation, preservation, and liberation. So the mantra or vibration does derive from Hinduism, and it's considered to have a high spiritual and creative power. And I believe that creation, preservation, and liberation are found, they represent the ah, oo, of our chant. Let me get back so I can see you. All right, so with that in mind, finding a reverent tall seat, bring your hands together at heart center. Today, just for fun, it's Friday, so we're gonna get a little musical. It'll be a little higher than my usual Om, but a big inhale. You can release your hands to your knees and give your knees a squeeze. Squeezing up and down your thighs, quadriceps, this big muscle right in the middle of the quads is rectus femoris. It literally holds our femur bone upright. And you might work down your calf muscles. Just giving a squeeze. We're just bringing some attention into our body. I was reading this morning about how our sense of touch actually degrades over time. So I figure it never hurts to bring a little bit more sensation back in. Work your hands back up your thighs. You might even find a kind of tense or tendinous spot that your thumbs can land on right below your hips. And then you might squeeze up the sides of your torso. You can tap along your ribs, the back and the front. You can make soft knuckles as you tap up your chest. Please feel free to let out a Carol Burnett. Oh! Get around to the back and front. And tap down one arm. Maybe you prefer squeezing and releasing instead of tapping, in which case go for it. Notice how you feel. Give your hand and fingers a little love. You know, I'm not very good about remembering to put on lotion, but I'm thinking that might be a nice self-care practice for everyone to stay in touch with their body, noticing how they're feeling, not to mention nourishing their skin, our largest organ. So switching to the other arm if you haven't already. And maybe tapping across your shoulders, tap yourself on the back. You are doing a great job. You can take your fingertips to the back of your neck, tap, tap, tap. Tapping along your jaw. And right under the eyes, you might be able to find and feel that occipital bone ridge, the orbital bone around the eyes. That can be a nice place to tap, helping our sinuses drain as well. Tapping across your forehead and then bringing it up to the top of your head. Sit tall here as you breathe and tap, 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 tap. From the top of your head, tap down the back of your head to your neck, and then you can do a sweeping motion, like you're sweeping water off a duck. And shake your hands out. Sit for just a moment and breathe. This week we have been practicing observing without judgment. Embracing both joy and sorrow, our heart can remain tender and wise. A quote from Martin Luther King Jr. is, "We can walk through the darkest night with the radiant conviction that all things work together for the good." So suspending our judgments, trusting that all works out. Scoot off of the blanket if you're sitting on one. You'll want your strap towards the back end of your mat, and we're going to make our way onto our spine. But first, hands behind you, plant your feet hips distance apart. Draw your shoulder blades together and down. Press into your hands, stretching your wrists, lifting your heart. This might be enough, or maybe lift your hips, finding reverse tabletop. Make adjustments as you need to. Little squeeze in the gluteal muscles, helping to send your hips high. If your neck is sensitive, you can keep your chin tucked towards your chest, Charlie horse. If your neck will tolerate it, you can drop your head back, lifting your chin towards the sky, pressing your hands into the earth, open up through your collarbones, and when you're ready, sit your hips down. Draw circles with your wrists. Place your hands back behind you, but choose a different position for your hands and wrists. So anything other than what you just did. And on an inhale, let's lift up. And another couple of breaths here, knowing that you can always come down. You can always pulse your hips, dropping down on the exhale, lifting up on the inhale. Hopefully you can stay open through your heart here. This is a huge shoulder chest opener, so go easy on yourself. As you come to your next exhale, you can return your hips to the mat and make your way onto your spine, grabbing your strap as we practice some Supta Pada Uttanasana, hand to big toe. So of course, if it's available for you, you can bring your peace fingers to your big toe as you extend your leg up. But generally this time of day, I like to use a strap. So loop the strap over your right foot. Left foot can stay on the mat, or maybe you extend your left leg long and slowly push your right foot to the sky as you resist with the strap. Once you land there, you can shimmy the strap side to side, giving your foot a nice massage. Get some friction, cross fiber friction. Breathing here. You can do that as long as you like. Maybe you choose to come to stillness now as we breathe and extend our right leg. Drop the right hip towards the bottom edge of your mat. Core muscles stay active and engaged. Your hands can probably relax a little bit. So holding the strap, but not like our life depends on it, just a loose hold. Maybe you can guide your toes a little bit more towards overhead. Maybe that wasn't such a good idea, then we just back off. Another big breath here. Switch your strap into your right hand. Open your left arm out wide. Big inhale. With your exhale, let your right foot slide off to the right. And as you breathe here, maybe you gently coax your right foot towards your right ear. Or maybe up overhead is a better cue. Breathing and noticing where you feel sensation. And after you notice a part of the body that's lit up right now, maybe you can shift your attention and find another part, maybe something surprising. Of course, at first I notice my right upper inner thigh and the back of my right leg. But then as I moved on from that observation, I noticed quite a stretch in the middle of my left arm. Another big inhale. With your exhale, draw your right leg back to center. Left hand grabs that strap. Right arm opens out wide. Inhale, lengthen your right leg. Exhale, guide it just a few inches over to the left. Drop your right hip down. Keep flexing your right foot. And breathe deeply here. There might be a lot of sensation to notice. If not, then maybe you need to shift your hips around a little bit or put a little more energy into your right leg. You're welcome to stay just as you are with your right hip on the mat, or maybe as you breathe, you allow your right hip to lift off of the mat, dropping the right leg down to the left, taking a spinal twist. Keep dropping your right hip away from your torso, so we're long through our torso. Breathing here. We're not passive through the legs. Both legs stay energized. You can imagine that you're standing up against a wall with both feet flexed. Inhale, and with your exhale, return to neutral. Release the straps and both legs long for a moment. And the buzzword, observe. Notice, if you can, the difference right now between your left and right leg. You might notice, hopefully, a sense of openness in the right leg. Might feel longer than the other. Loop the strap over your left foot. Again, your right leg can be bent or extended long. And slowly lengthen the left leg towards the sky, flexing the foot, the ankle. And you might move the strap, giving yourself that cross fiber plinth or friction. Massaging with friction here the connective tissue of the foot, which is generally quite dense, and it's definitely connected to all of the connective tissue of the legs and hips. And of course the whole body, it's all one. Left leg long to the sky, left hip dropping down away from your head as you breathe here. Maybe gently coaxing the left toes towards overhead. Make sure we're not bringing unnecessary tension into our hands and wrists by over gripping the strap. Switching the strap into your left hand, your right arm opens out wide. Breathing here. With your exhale, slowly lower your left leg to the left side. Keep breathing. You might guide your left toes towards overhead with the strap. Notice if you're holding tension somewhere that doesn't really serve you. For example, if you're clenching your jaw right now, that's probably not serving much of a purpose. Maybe you can let go as you stay active through both legs though. Inhale deeply, and as you exhale, everything contracts. You can draw your left leg back to the midline. Right hand grabs the strap, left arm opens out wide. Left leg is long, extending out of the hip. Left hip drops down a bit away from our head. And as we breathe, we start to guide the left leg just a few inches over to the right. Notice the sensation. After a breath or two, you're welcome to stay here or maybe take a twist. So keep your left shoulder anchored in the mat as best you can, but you can allow the left hip to lift off of the mat as we spinal twist, left leg reaching out to the right side now. Hip is still sliding away from our head, so long torso. Plenty of room in the body still to take a deep breath in. Both ankles still flexed. Another breath here. And return to neutral. Release the strap off of your foot. Roll onto one side. Slowly make your way back up to seated. Strap can go out of the way. Come onto hands and knees, passing through our beloved cow and cat. We will be on our knees a bit today, so maybe it's a good idea to have the blanket under for a little extra cushion. And then move through cow and cat as you arrive in tabletop. As you come to this familiar position, make sure you're paying attention to your foundation. You can treat this as a sacred, dignified movement, not just slopping through it. Feel the stretch on all parts of the body. You're welcome to add some extra movement in here, drawing circles with the hips and heart maybe pushing back through Varshasana, child's pose. Wherever you're going with it, let's make sure that we are wrapping our upper arms around so our elbows point back towards our thighs. We have external rotation of the upper arms and the shoulders, but then we stay anchored through the index finger and thumb. That is internal rotation. So it makes sense if that feels like a really tricky cue. You might be thinking that's impossible. Just stick with it and breathe. Another round or two, taking any movement that feels good from tabletop. Now from a neutral tabletop, draw your left knee out laterally to the left. So dog on fire hydrant is the... I think I just used the word dignified and then I say dog on fire hydrant. And now draw some big circles with your knee and hip. Breathe here. Notice the weight in your hands. Maybe you can grip the mat with your fingertips. Switch the directions of these circles. Core muscles engaged. Make sure you're not slouching into your shoulders, so push the ground away. Still have a long spine. All right, and return the left knee to the mat or blanket. Right knee opens out, or hip opens out. Breathe here, and then begin to draw big circles with the hip and knee. I promise there's a logic to this. Breathing, actively pressing the earth away. Switch the directions of these big circles. Keep your core engaged. And return your right knee down. Now come to stand on your knees and face the wide edge of the mat. Or maybe you don't have to actually. We're going into gate pose where we send one leg out long. But we do want to set up both blocks so that they will land behind you on either side for our half circle pose as well. So send your left leg out long, toes and knees towards the sky. Drop your tailbone, lift your heart and crown, and then imagine drawing your left heel back towards your right knee. You can also imagine slightly sending your pelvic bowl towards your right knee. Inhale your right arm up and fold over to your left. Varshasana, gate pose. Breathe here, and you might explore lifting your heart towards the sky and then maybe gently, carefully rounding your heart down towards the mat. Another breath or two here. Maybe a micro bend in your extended leg so we're not locking out the knee. On an inhale, your right hand reaches up to the sky and then back behind you, maybe to that block. If you don't have a block, don't worry, hands can go to the mat. Left arm reaches up and overhead. Send your hips forward, half circle. Ardha Mandalasana. Breathing here, stretch the torso. Inhale, prop yourself back up, return to Varshasana, gate pose. Make sure your toes and knees are still pointed towards the sky. Pull the heel back towards your bent knee. Inhale, and as you exhale, cartwheel your arms, return to half circle. Big inhale, sending your hips and heart up to the sky here. And on your next inhale, return to neutral. Stand on both knees. Send your right leg out long. Right toes and knees towards the sky. Hug the hip in really as we draw the heel towards our bent knee. You might send the hips forward a little bit, lengthen your spine. Inhale your left arm up and fold over to your right. Breathing here, again, option to explore lifting the heart towards the sky, then maybe cautiously rounding down, working into some deep internal muscles here. Varshasana, gate pose. Big inhale. Exhale, cartwheel your left hand down, finding the block behind you. Right arm up overhead, send the hips forward, heart towards the sky. Half circle, Ardha Mandalasana. Big breath. And on your next inhale, pop yourself back up to neutral, fold back over for gate pose. Again, that little micro bend in your extended knee, so we're not locking our knee out. Big inhale, and as you exhale, cartwheel your arms down, finding half circle. Inhaling, exhale here. Inhale, pop yourself back up to neutral, stand on your knees. You can move the blocks back towards the top of your mat so they're out of your way. Move the blanket out of the way if you'd like. And move right into downward facing dog. So big inhale and exhale the hips to the sky. This will be our only Adho Mukha Svanasana today. So take any movement that feels good to you. You might come high on your toes and then send one heel down, bending the opposite knee. You can shake and nod your head out. Sway your hips. On an inhale, look forward between your hands. As you exhale, step your feet to the top of the mat. Hang heavy, Uttanasana, forward fold. On an inhale, press your feet into the mat while you rise all the way up. Arms reach out and up. Exhale your hands to heart center and down by your side. You might choose to grab a block here just to help us create a really intentional, strong, well-structured Tadasana mountain pose. So being here for just a moment with the block, it can help us get that isometric muscle engagement. The muscles of the legs are hugging into the bones. You can imagine that you're pulling your yoga mat in half between your feet. Anchor your tailbone, which when we say that, what we're really saying is neutralize your pelvic bowl. So if you can look at this screen, I'll exaggerate the tilt of the pelvic bowl. A lot of us walk around somewhat like this. So when we neutralize it, that brings this bowl. So we're not spilling our energy out everywhere. And so we're not creating unnecessary low back pain, of course. Squeezing the block, inhale, arms out and up. Core engaged, exhale, hinge forward. Inhale to lift halfway, hands slide up the shins. Exhale to fold. Inhale, root down to rise up. Exhale your hands to heart center. You can release the block. We will move into Varshasana tree pose. So if you know you need a little support for balance, you might move to a wall or grab a chair. Yes. So you can keep the block outside of your right foot if you want to use it as a kickstand. Hands to hips from Tadasana, so moment of intention here. Shift your weight into your left leg and slowly start to lift your right foot off of the mat. Now you might just keep the foot hovering off the mat, or maybe you can bring the thigh towards parallel to the mat or earth. Right ankle flexed, breathe here, and open your right knee out to the right. Dalgon fire hydrant. Breathe here, and bring the knee back to front. As you keep breathing, let's take that movement again. This in and of itself is an incredible balance practice. And opening the knee out once more, allow your foot to find the midline of your standing leg. It can be above the knee, you might use your hands to get there, or maybe below the knee. Maybe you use that block as a kickstand of support. Wherever you go with it, your hands and arms at this point can be doing anything necessary to help you find some stability. Remembering that trees certainly do sway in the wind. Your lifted foot is pressing into your standing leg. Your hips are just slightly pressing forward. Heart lifted. Breathing. One more cycle of breath here. And as you exhale, release your left foot down. Your right foot down. Pause in Tadasana, and then you know where we're going. Shift the weight into your right leg. Hover your left foot off of the mat. Hands on hips if that works for you. And lift your left thigh towards parallel to the earth. Open up like a book. That's a nicer image. Close the hip, knee to front. Tailbone anchored, hips neutral. Open your thigh out again. Return to center. Open that leg out again. Bend the knee deeper so that the foot lands on the standing leg. Your left foot finds the standing leg wherever it lands except for on the knee. They press into each other, creating, you can imagine like a suction along the midline. Your hands can be doing anything, arms lifted or by your side, maybe in prayer, maybe keeping them on your hips, feeling how your hips shift, trying to keep them relatively neutral. With your next breath, maybe you can stand taller. And as you exhale, slowly release your left leg to the mat. All right, we'll make our way onto our spine. Closing out this week with a brief Shavasana. So settle yourself in. And if you want to keep your feet planted, knees towards the sky today, maybe that's a good option. This will be a quickie. And with these breaths in Shavasana, practice observing, just noticing when we are truly present wherever we are, we bring peace. Deepen your breath. Of course, please stay longer if time allows for you. Otherwise, we'll return to a comfortable seat. Just a snack of a Shavasana there. Ready to roll on into our days. Sit tall. Bring your hands together at heart center for an Om on C. Big inhale for Om. Thank you for sharing your practice today. Namaste.